Okay. So yes, talking about some of the Sciblogs articles that came up this week. Apologies, the cold has made my brain mushy on the insides. The first one is by Ken Collins, who writes for the blog The Science of Architecture, and this is it's a thought piece, I guess. It's called The Influence of Buildings, and it was inspired by by Ken watching a TED talk where David Byrne, lead singer of Talking Heads, talks about the influence that the clubs in which they played had on the music of Talking Heads, which is quite interesting. And this led Ken to just think about, how do buildings in the built environment in general influence our behavior? And it's probably an enormous amount, everything from parks maybe that haven't been laid out terribly well to buildings that are perfectly fit for purpose, where people have thought about the flow of people through them and how they would be used. Of course, there's a lot of interest in this at the moment with the rebuilding of Christchurch. But also, what happens as functions change? At what point does, the irritation of a laboratory or a building that's not quite fit for purpose actually just become too much, and people put in the money to, refit it or whatever. Anyway, it's an interesting piece, and certainly it's interesting to think about, considering how surrounded we are by our built environments and how important a part they may actually be playing in our everyday lives.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting to see where it's going to go.
Absolutely. There's a lot of focus at the moment on this sort of thing. All right.
Now it's back onto me. There's two-part... Oh, this was brilliant. There's a two-part post from the blog Ariadne, written by Robert Hickson, which is looking at the kind of future of science and technology. The two-part post is called Where's My Robot? And it goes through and it discusses all the issues around where we are with robots, where we're going, what we can make them do, what we can't make them do, drivers, trends, challenges. There's some really, really good comments on there as well, and it just kind of maps out the future of robotics for space exploration, for military hardware. It's quite in-depth, but it's well worth a read.
Sounds fantastic. I hope he's linked to IEEE Spectrum, which is a website that often has a lot of stuff on robotics on it as well. I'm not sure if he has. I haven't actually read the post in question. So I'm
Shocking.
But I apologise, but yes.
No, he hasn't linked to it that I can see, but he's talking all about Asimov's laws, and
cool.
There's even a commenter here who started talking about fuzzy logic and how the International Space Station automatically docks with how the space shuttle, docked automatically with the International Space Station. It's all robotic, all automatic, and Super. How that actually works. Very, very cool post.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to going home and reading that. And the last Sciblogs one is just it's a little quick post, but it's quite interesting, from Brian Walker, who writes for Hot Topic, and he's actually just pointing to a video by Australian science journalist Potholer, apparently, which looks at the question, are cosmic rays causing global warming? It's a question that is asked and posed continually in the climate change circles. A lot of climate change or anthropogenic global warming skeptics and deniers say that the warming that we're currently seeing is caused by cosmic rays. So this just addresses some of those questions. It's quite straightforward. It's done with a light touch, and it looks both at the science and how misinterpretations could travel in the denialist community. So always give that a look. Next time you're at a dinner party, you can no doubt bore the pants off someone with your newly acquired knowledge. Or interest them furiously. It totally depends on the party.
Speaking of parties, we're up to the point in the show where we talk about events, and there's a very cool party coming up tomorrow night. So, Amy?
Right, well, it's not so much a party. I organise an event in Wellington called Nerd Night. So, yes, this is a shameless self-plug, but it's actually does kind of fit in.
It's well worth it.
Nerd Night's all about getting people together to drink copious amounts of beer, maybe eat some food, and listen to sort of four interesting people get up and talk about stuff about which they're geeky for about half an hour. We've had everything from geoengineering to how to fling things into space in dangerous and extremely expensive ways, to graffiti, to electronica. And tomorrow's, which is taking place at Club IV from 6 o'clock and is free, is all about data. So we've got people talking about seasonal forecasting, about digital humanities, about caching and how caching works. There's a little musical number, and also about how brains... This one's interesting. It's basically how cognition is not only internal, it's external. So do pop along to that. I'd suggest you get there early. The venue's small and it tends to be packed out, but come along if you'd like. And they happen every couple of months anyway, so we'll always tell you when they're coming up. Yes, and I'm going to pass on now.
And we should also say that the great speakers are recorded and posted online afterwards. So
yes,
some of those interesting things Aimee just talked about, you can go back and see their presentations at previous Nerd Nights. Just Google search for Nerd Night Wellington. Mm-hmm. Also coming up this week, the Carter Observatory up in the Botanical Gardens in Wellington has an Aboriginal navigation talk on Tuesday night, where they're going to be taking through all the different forms that Aborigines use to navigate using the stars. It'll be really, really interesting. It's the first in a series that they're doing from all over the world navigation to celebrate the Rugby World Cup and all the different people and forms of navigation we've got here. So go to the Carter Observatory website if you're interested, find out more about that. We'll link to it on the post again.
Excellent. All right, and coming back to, again, this is tomorrow, but this explains why Elf is currently dressed in pirate garb with a sore throat, and why he will be dressed in pirate garb again tomorrow for work, as will a number of people. It's International Talk Like a Pirate Day, certainly one of the most loved holidays by geeks worldwide. People get to dress up silly and wander around talking silly, and it's all just absolutely fantastic and done in great good fun. And I was having a look at the talklikeapirate.com website, which is the International Talk Like a Pirate Day sort of main hub website. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's a piratey way to say that. I don't speak fluent pirate. And it's quite cool. There's a whole bunch of science-related links on here. So, for example, there's a teacher's resource where teachers have used this day to come up with all kinds of fantastic curricula around, like history, even the morals of piracy, and science-related stuff as well. So that's pretty cool. And then there's also another section just talking about general sort of science-related craziness. For example, those of you who know about ELIZA, which is the conversational program, someone's come up with one called Captain Ethan, who's apparently a piratey version of ELIZA. There's all kinds of stuff. There's Davy Jones's Locker, which is a sort of a piratical look. Apparently it's seafloor mapping and coastal GIS. It's just fantastic to see that, science and piracy can merge and form something just so beautiful and so wholesome.
And there are some really gorgeous Mythbusters episodes specifically around piracy as well.
Yeah.
Talking about the use of eye patches, the requirement for scurvy in your diet, the requirement of citrus in your diet to prevent scurvy, I should say, and a whole bunch of other just really hilarious things. So it's good to see that an international holiday has now been taken on wholeheartedly by the science community, other than just me.
Exactly. Cool.
And the final thing on this week in our list of events is the Square Kilometre Array Rutherford Innovation Showcase. So there's two parts to this. First off, last week the New Zealand and Australian group trying to get the Square Kilometre Array, which is this giant, really, really cool, really high-tech radio telescope set up in Australia and New Zealand, submitted their final bid. And we'll hear back at the beginning of next year about whether we were successful. Our competitor at the moment is South Africa. They've both got really, really good bids, really, really good cases, and we'll have to see where we go. But regardless of who gets it, to be honest, we're going to get some really, really cool science out of it, so I'm kind of happy either which way. But the New Zealand chapter of the Square Kilometre Array is holding an innovation conference on Thursday and Friday this week at Te Papa, the National Museum in Wellington. So that's well worth going along to. I'm going to be there. Probably won't be dressed as a pirate, but there's going to be some very, very cool talks on large amounts of data transfer, deep space imaging, all sorts of things, as well as innovation startups from all over the place.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. And for the SK, as Alf says, it's just such a fantastic project. We hope that it goes basically to whoever is going to provide it the best home at the end of the day. Okay, well, I guess that's us, so we'll wrap up with the usual thank yous to Vic for the use of their space, to the Science Media Centre for the use of their audio recording gear, and to Rian Sheehan for his music. And do check the blog, cyblogs.co.nz/TOSP. There'll be a blog post associated with this where you can go and make clicky on all the linky goodness.
And just before we sign off, do take a look at our other interesting things. They're always good, but this week they are absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
There are some technical articles there that we didn't have time to mention, but man, are they cool. Nanodiamonds, microfluidics made from corn, fish eyes made out of synthetic material, you name it, it's all there. Very well worth a look.
Definitely. Do enjoy, and please feel free to comment or get in contact with any ideas, comments, suggestions. If it's hate mail, could you at least, make sure your punctuation's good? And with that, we'll sign out. Bye-bye.
Yaaaarrrr, be having a good week.
Bye.